What is the biggest problem facing contemporary Christianity? Over the past 2 weeks, we've learned that one major issue is that Christians do not truly know the God they profess to believe in. It's not that modern Christians don't believe in God. The problem is that they believe in a God who is too small. So this is the problem we are facing in our Christianity. So many modern Christians believe in a God who is too small and incapable. J.I. Packer, in his book, Knowing God, agrees with this assessment. Quote, "But God's majesty is knowledge which Christians today largely lack, and that is one reason why our faith is so feeble and our worship so flabby. We are modern people, and modern people, though they cherish great thoughts of themselves, have as a rule small thoughts of God. When the person in the church, let alone the person in the street, uses the word God, the thought is rarely of divine majesty. Today, vast stress is laid on the thought that God is personal, but this truth is so stated as to leave the impression that God is a person of the same sort as we are, weak, inadequate, ineffective, a little pathetic. But this is not the God of the Bible. Our personal life is a finite thing. It is limited in every direction, in space, in time, in knowledge, in power. But God is not so limited. He is eternal, infinite, and almighty." End quote. What kind of life does someone who believes in a small and powerless God lead? Such individuals are easily distressed and fearful even in small everyday challenges. Their lives are filled with complaints and dissatisfaction because, in their eyes, their God is too small to take care of their big problems. The idiom, "making a mountain out of a molehill," aptly describes their attitude. They magnify minor issues by reacting with worry and anxiety. It is much like a toddler who cries over trivial matters, such as a dropped toy or a broken crayon, because they do not yet understand that these minor inconveniences are only temporary and easily resolved. While our concerns may be valid, as believers in a God who is far greater than any problem, we must change our attitude in how we respond to our life challenges. How can we, then, avoid magnifying our problems, stay calm and fearless in difficulties, and live with gratitude and praise instead of complaints? Today's text clearly teaches that this is only possible when we know and believe in a God who is infinitely greater than anything in the universe. This is the major truth we will learn today. Our God is the Almighty who is ruling over all and infinitely greater than any problem in life. How great is our God, then? Point number 1. God is bigger and greater than all of nature. Psalm chapter 33, verses 6 to 9. "By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, and by the breath of his mouth all their host. He gathers the waters of the sea as a heap. He puts the deeps in storehouses. Let all the earth fear the Lord. Let all the inhabitants of the world stand in awe of him. For he spoke, and it came to be. He commanded, and it stood firm. How great is God's power! He created the heavens with his word and made all the stars with his breath." Genesis chapter 1 reveals God's incredible power by recording that when God said, "Let there be light," there was light. Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. This shows that God effortlessly created everything by his word. Let's take a moment to reflect on this truth. How vast is the universe we exist in? In fact, no scientist truly knows the size of the universe. What we do know is that this unimaginably large universe is still expanding. To grasp the vastness of the universe, let's look at the distance between our Sun and the nearest star, Proxima Centauri. Proxima Centauri is about 4.2 light-years away from us. For those familiar with astronomy, 4.2 light-years is a very short distance compared to the scale of the universe. But how far is 4.2 light-years in terms we can understand? A light-year is the distance light travels in 1 year, approximately 186,000 miles, 300,000 kilometers, per second. So, when we convert the distance from our Sun to Proxima Centauri into more relatable terms, it highlights just how vast even this short distance is. 4.2 light years is equal to 4.2 times 186,000 miles per second, or 300,000 kilometers per second, which equals approximately 25 trillion miles, or 41 trillion kilometers. The observable universe is estimated to be about 93 billion light-years across. Trying to comprehend this distance in terms we can truly understand is nearly impossible. The key truth to remember is that our God effortlessly created this vast universe by simply saying, "Let there be a universe." Moreover, He not only created all the stars and planets in this immense expanse, but also knows each of them by name. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 26. "Lift up your eyes on high and see, who created these? He who brings out their host by number, calling them all by name. By the greatness of His might and because He is strong in power, not one is missing. Do you know which is more numerous? The grains of sand on earth or the stars in the universe? Earth is estimated to have about 7.5 quintillion grains of sand, which is 7.5 times 10 to the power of 18. In contrast, the observable universe contains approximately 200 sextillion stars, which is 2 times 10 to the power of 23. This means there are about 26,700 times more stars in the observable universe than grains of sand on Earth. God not only created this vast number of stars with His word, but also knows each one by name. How majestic, marvelous, and mighty is our God! Furthermore, by His creative power, God gathered the waters to form the vast seas and small rivers and divided the land with oceans. Psalm chapter 33, verse 7. He gathers the waters of the sea as a heap. He puts the deeps in storehouses. The earth contains approximately 1,386 billion cubic kilometers of water. God, in His immense power, gathers and divides this vast amount of water as effortlessly as a person collects and stores a small amount of water in a jar. The prophet Isaiah speaks of the great power of God who created and governs the vast universe and earth in this way. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 12. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of His hand and marked off the heavens with a span, enclosed the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales, and the hills in a balance. How great and mighty is our God! From our limited perspective, it is almost impossible to fathom the vast universe, the waters covering the earth, all the dust of the land and every mountain. Yet all of these fit easily within God's one palm, who is infinitely greater than the entire universe. The immense seas, skies, and mountains that seem immeasurable to us are nothing before our infinitely great God. Truly, our God is incomparably greater than the entire universe and all of nature. Moreover, He is greater not only than all of nature, but also than all the nations scattered across the earth. Point number 2. God is bigger and greater than all the nations. Throughout human history, many great kingdoms and kings have existed. However, before the great God, they are weak and powerless. Empires and rulers who once dominated the world and flaunted their might as if their glory would last forever have all met their end. The once mighty Egyptian kingdom, Babylonian Empire, Roman Empire, Mongol Empire, and British Empire have all faded into history. It is the Almighty God who determines the rise and fall of these kingdoms. Job chapter 12, verse 23. He makes nations great, and He destroys them. He enlarges nations and leads them away. Why are human history and the territories of each nation as they are today? It is because God has determined them. Acts chapter 17, verse 26. And He made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place. Why do rulers of kingdoms and nations sometimes make wise decisions and other times foolish ones that lead to their own destruction? What drives them to make these choices? Or rather, who drives them to make these decisions? It is God. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9. The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 1. The king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. He turns it wherever he will. Therefore, the psalmist of today's text proclaims the relationship between God and the kingdoms of the world in this way. Psalm chapter 33, verses 10 to 17. The Lord brings the counsel of the nations to nothing. He frustrates the plans of the peoples. The counsel of the Lord stands forever, the plans of his heart to all generations. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people whom he has chosen as his heritage. The Lord looks down from heaven, he sees all the children of man. From where he sits enthroned, he looks out on all the inhabitants of the earth. He who fashions the hearts of them all and observes all their deeds. The king is not saved by his great army. A warrior is not delivered by his great strength. The war horse is a false hope for salvation, and by its great might it cannot rescue. I am convinced that what modern Christians most lack is the understanding of God's greatness in ruling over all nations and leaders, ensuring his absolute will is accomplished without fail. Many Christians claim to believe in the Bible and its God. In fact, they seem to believe that in biblical times God established and removed all kingdoms and kings according to his will and preserved his people within them. However, they often act as if they do not believe that the same God is still guiding the affairs of the entire world, including Korea, North Korea, the United States, China, and Russia, according to his will. They are easily swayed by who becomes president or which party takes control. They behave as if the God who fulfilled his will and protected his people in biblical times is now unable to do so in the modern world. Many politically driven pastors and their followers tear each other down by championing either conservative or progressive values. One group rejoices as if God's will has been fulfilled when a conservative government wins an election, but reacts with exaggerated dismay when a progressive government takes power, as if God has been defeated. Conversely, another group panics, as if the world is falling apart when a conservative government takes over, but then sighs with relief, believing the country is aligned with God's will when the progressive party regains control. Such attitudes stem from ignorance of God's greatness, who reigns over all nations and rulers and perfectly fulfills his will through them. As citizens of Korea or the United States, we have the freedom and right to express our political views. However, as Christians, we must not forget that God is infinitely greater than our country's politics. During Israel's darkest times, when they were oppressed by foreign nations for centuries, God sent Jesus, the Messiah, who is the light for Israel and the entire world. No matter how dark the world may seem, God still reigns over it and continues to fulfill his perfect will. Knowing this, we don't need to fear or tremble at the rapidly changing global events and political situations. Beware of false pastors who bring political issues into the pulpit to cause unnecessary fear among believers. Be cautious of false teachers who stir up panic by claiming the end times are near and the Antichrist is appearing here or there. They do this because they believe in a small and powerless God. Their God is too small. We, however, have the Almighty as our Father, who reigns with complete sovereignty over all kingdoms and nations. Therefore, we have no need to fear or panic in any situation. Here is the conclusion of today's message. Our God is immeasurably and infinitely great. Psalm chapter 145, verses 1 to 3. I will extol you, my God and King, and bless your name forever and ever. Every day I will bless you and praise your name forever and ever. Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised, and his greatness is unsearchable. If you agree with my conclusion, you will be able to start to view the events of the world and the problems in your life from a new perspective, that is, God's perspective. Now, regardless of who becomes president, which party comes to power, whether we lose our jobs, our businesses fail, our health declines, or we face any difficulties in life, we can still worship, fear, and trust our great God, who is infinitely greater than our problems. Now let's worship this infinitely great God. Psalm chapter 33, verses 1 to 3. Shout for joy in the Lord, O you righteous. Praise befits the upright. Give thanks to the Lord with the lyre. Make melody to him with the harp of 10 strings. Sing to him a new song. Play skillfully on the strings with loud shouts. Let's fear this immeasurably majestic God. Psalm chapter 33, verses 18 to 19. Behold, the eye of the Lord is on those who fear him, on those who hope in his steadfast love, that he may deliver their soul from death and keep them alive in famine. Let's trust this incredibly awesome God. Psalm chapter 33, verses 20 to 22. Our soul waits for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. For our heart is glad in him, because we trust in his holy name. Let your steadfast love, O Lord, be upon us, even as we hope in you. I want to wrap up today's message by reading Paul's awe-filled words about our great God in 1 Timothy chapter 6. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 15b to 16. God, who is the blessed and only sovereign, the King of kings and Lord of lords, who alone has immortality, who dwells in unapproachable light, whom no one has ever seen or can see. To him be honor and eternal dominion. Amen.